Hi, it's Will from stormthecastle.com, and this is a brand new episode of my Friday Fish and Chips. And an interesting thing, I came up with an interesting thing for this. I'm in my hometown and kind of a new place. I've moved around a lot the past few years, but I went for a fish and chips, and you'll see that in this video. I went for fish and chips to a place that I had been to before, but it's during Lent, which means, and the city is very strongly Catholic city with a lot of churches and a strong Catholic population. So this time, when I went for my fish and chips, and you'll see this in the video, there was a long line of people waiting outside the fish and chips place. So I was like, oh, gee, I don't want to. I'm training for my Camino. I'm training for my pilgrimage. I don't want to just stand around and burn off a half an hour when I could be walking. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go roam around the city, try to find another place. And I ended up, and you'll see some of the footage here, I ended up several places before I finally found a fish and chip somewhere. But that made me think about the benefit of getting lost. And I'll explain a little bit to you about that. I'll give you several examples. First off, I was thinking about my website, and I used to have this thing on my website at stormthecastle.com, right? I used to have this thing years ago called the Serendipity engine. And it was a term I created. I wonder if you could search that and find anybody else who's ever thought of that. But for me, what it was is a little script that would give you a random project or a random page or a random thing from my website when you press the button. And I thought it was a really cool idea. It's kind of like getting lost, intentionally getting lost to see where you end up. And I love that. I should put that Serendipity engine back on my website. I went looking for it because that was years and years and years ago. I went looking for it. And I don't know if you've heard of something called the wayback machine. It's like this archive of the internet where they've been archiving and taking little snapshots of websites for the past 25 years, something like that. Or more than 25 years, I think, which is really interesting. And sure enough, my website is in there, and I think it goes back as far as 2001 or 2002. I'm going to put a couple of links in the description of this video if you want to go take a peek at what my website first started looking like. And I'm sure that the website actually existed longer than that. I know that for a fact. The Wayback Machine just didn't pick it up. But it did pick it up in 2001 or 2002. It's when it started noticing my website, you know. But and I was with a server company that went bankrupt in those early years. There's a whole story there. There were no cell phones back then. The server company that I had my website on went bankrupt. This is kind of an aside, but an interesting story. And it ticked me off. Nothing worked. I couldn't send them an email. I couldn't call them. But I did look up the domain of that company and found the CEO's name. And then I went down to the public library. True story. I went down to the public library, looked up the information. They have these books. I forget what they call them. Is it the Thomas Register? This is back then now. Everything's internet now. But back then it was books where every company has to be registered and like all the pertinent information. I looked up the CEO's name and telephone number, went home and called him on my landline and called the guy. Caught him by surprise. And I said, listen, you got to do me a favor. I've been hosting with you for a couple of years now. Your company went bankrupt. All you got to do is sign a piece of paper so I can transfer my domain, because domains are a very valuable thing. They're locked. You can't just switch them around, you know. Sign a piece of paper so I can transfer the domain to another company, another hosting company. And that way I can continue to use my website, because my website went down when they went bankrupt. You know, Storm the Castle went down. So he said, okay, he would do it, and he did it. So otherwise my website would have been lost in limbo. With me, nothing I could do. Well, anyway, that's an aside. Just interesting story there. Anyway, I had that thing called the Serendipity engine on that website. And I'll put a link here I found it on the Wayback Machine. I found out some stuff about the Serendipity engine. I'll put some links there so you can take a look if you want to see what the Serendipity. It doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore because they don't have my whole website in the Wayback Machine. They just got snapshots of different things. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, so I really should do that again. I really like that. It makes me think of something else. You might not know this, but does anybody ever use the I'm feeling lucky button on Google? Right? Are you familiar with the I'm feeling lucky button? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But Google is a very sparse main screen, right? You know, you get your Google search, and then you've got something called the I'm feeling lucky button. It can also be I'm feeling curious, I'm feeling generous, there's like all these different things. But I sometimes hit that button just to see what comes up. You know, and it's a serendipity engine of sorts. Something I thought of before Google was even invented. Right? So I just think that's, kind of interesting that Google has a serendipity button. Just kind of take your chances and click on that and see what you get. I like it. So one more thing I'm going to bring up here. This is something, and I recommend you do this. I guess you can do it on the internet now, right? There must be websites. I would imagine there are websites with an I'm feeling lucky website that you press a button and something just totally random will come up, I guess. But I got proof of it on the Wayback Machine from 20 some odd years ago. But this is where it came from for me where it first originated in my teenage years a long, long time ago. And I really would do this. I was a frequent visitor to the local library. Love that library. I'll pop a picture here. I'll pop a picture in of it here. It's beautiful library, marble inside, granite on the outside. Used to have all glass inside, like the floors and the walls and the bookshelf. Not the floors and the walls where the books were, and the floors where the books were all like iron and glass, like this smoked glass. Even the floor. And that was for fire reasons, right? It's since been upgraded to get rid of all of that stuff, sadly. But I used to haunt that library. Go there. Like for me, the big treat was no school on a Saturday. I would take my bike down to the library. That was the big thing for me. But sometimes what I would do is, and I really, really like this, and I think it really made a difference in my life. Well, that's a strong statement, but I would actually sometimes, like I had subjects that I was really passionate about and interested in. I would get books on those and all, stuff like that. Of course, we all do, right? But I would sometimes say, I'm going to just pick a random, what do you call it? Walkway? What do you call the row between the shelves? I'll pick a random row, walk a random number of steps, turn and reach down or up or somehow without looking and pick a book. And then I would take that book home and read it, no matter what it was. And I just thought that was wonderful. So it was kind of like getting lost in, when you do something like that. I love doing that because it broke me out of patterns that I was developing, right? I had all these subjects that I did like and these interests that I was interested in, but I think it's really good to snap yourself into something totally new that you wouldn't consider or think of, you never even barely heard of, and then learn about it. And I think that really made a difference in my development and my life. It brought a breath, BREADTH, of interesting knowledge and curiosity to me that I might have. I guess in effect I was kind of giving myself a liberal arts education, right? Where you get a smattering of different things, even if you don't think you're interested in them. But come to find out, just about everything in this world is interesting. So, and I found some wonderful books that way. I found this one book of nature. What was the name of that book? That just blew my mind away. It was so old book, like written in like the 1910, like literally. And I was blown away by the writing and what it was about, and I can't remember the name of the book, darn it. Written by this woman who was like a naturologist. Well, anyway, now I'm off that subject. So it's wonderful to do that. Getting lost and just seeing where it brings you. I guess that's kind of a roundabout way to say that. And I should do that in travel too. I do some of that in travel. Travel is very anxiety inducing because everything's new, all new stimuli, and the strain of travel and stress of travel, and you have to be careful where you focus your attention because everything is new. So you have to pick and choose things, but it would be interesting to, and I've done this, I've gotten lost when traveling, kind of lost. I mean, how lost can you get, Like, I spent a vacation on the island of Bermuda, which is a beautiful island. It's like 72 degrees, 364 days a year. People are nice. I like Bermuda. But, how lost can you get? I mean, you can be adventurous in a constrained and constricted manner. You can be adventurous as you kind of think you want to be, but you're never really going to go far. It's a small island. You can't get that lost, But I've done some of that. I've gotten lost, and you just embrace it. Say, well, let me see what comes of this. I'm off my plan because I'm a planner. I love the planning aspect of travel. When I get off my plan, and instead of saying, oh, you know what, I'm off my plan. Oh my gosh, I got to get back on plan. I say, let me embrace being off plan here and see where it brings me. And sometimes it brings you to rewarding places. Just different. You notice you don't see. I could tell you a story about, have I done little travel stories about Ireland yet? I got a really cute story about getting lost in Dublin. I'm going to save that story for when I do little travel stories Ireland. That's what I'll do. I'll wait for that. You'll have to wait for that story. But, so that's it. I just wanted to say, about getting lost. Oh, and I always had this vision in my head that I should do this. I'm running out of life energy and time in my life to do all the things I want to do. I'd have to live to 300 to accomplish all the things I want to accomplish when it comes to travel. Just travel, let alone all the other stuff. But I always had this thing in my head that if it were possible to go on an adventure. And I'm sure people have done this already. It's only a halfway clever idea. I should look it up, but I wanted to say, I'm going to block out a certain amount of time, and I'm going to do coin flip travel, Has that been done? I'm sure it's been done. But where you get to like an intersection and you flip a coin left or right, and you just follow the coin, Get to another intersection and you flip a coin left or right, If you come up with 4 lefts or 4 rights in a row and you're back where you started, that was the adventure, You got to accept that too, which is kind of funny, disappointing, but hey, that was meant to be. Is that 4 or 3? 1? Let me see. You head off, you take a left, 3 lefts, or 3 rights, and you're back where you started, and that's that. That was my coin flip adventure. With my luck, that's what would happen. I'd be like, don't do this video. But wouldn't that be fun though? Just a coin flip, because you're taking a risk, you're getting lost. You're just seeing where the randomness of life will take you. I like that a lot. Anyway, so this is another episode of my Fish and Chips. I'm glad to be back on the Fish and Chips. I've been on a roll here, posting new ones other than the ones that I had reposted, because I had a 26 or 27 Fish and Chips, and I took them all down. And I have slowly been posting them again to a new channel on YouTube, and now I'm on to the new ones. And this Fish and Chips here I had at this place was really good. I enjoyed it. It was expensive. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was $22 for the Fish and Chips. No, maybe that was the last place. No, yeah, that was the other place. All right, anyway, well, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. If you're a patron, my deepest appreciation for being a patron. Thank you very much. You help me to try to live this life, this unusual life that I'm living. If you're not a patron, consider supporting me. Otherwise, hit that like and subscribe button. I got more stuff coming. I got a whole things coming on, going on the Camino, having a lot of fun. Thank you. Bye.